Thank you, Josh. We're ArxNimbus, the mathematics of cybersecurity. Our mission is to bring complete transparency and governance to cybersecurity risk for every organization worldwide. Next slide. We track attack probability and a monetary impact forecast. We're the only solution in the cybersecurity space today that is able to characterize risk in financial terms using actuarial science models, data science, and historical data losses as well. This allows companies to determine how much to and where to invest in capabilities to reduce risks and recover costs, and produces a comprehensive level of preparedness for regulatory compliance and litigation defense. Next slide. We're raising $4 million on a valuation of 20, primarily to fund our marketing program. Next slide. We're now at the forefront of risk valuation, and one of our first customers was US Stratcom. Stratcom had a difficulty in determining the risk reduction potential of commercial solutions. So we worked directly with Stratcom, MITRE Corporation, Johns Hopkins University, and KBR on developing that initial model, which is now protected by patent. We have worked with the insurance industry. Our original economic model was developed at the Department of Economics at University of Chicago, and we've worked heavily with AT&T. We are a complete SaaS solution, fully secure and scalable on Microsoft Azure. We've been reviewed by the Society of Actuaries. We have a formal collaboration agreement with the Department of Actuarial Science at University of Illinois and a ServiceNow partnership. And we were just named last month as one of Pepperdine University's most fundable companies. Next slide. The market size for the cybersecurity solutions market, as you may be aware, is $178 billion a year. Our market within that is risk compliance and threat analytics, and that's an $8 billion market slice of that $178 billion overall market. Our TAM is represented by cyber risk analytics, which is about 33% of the overall $8 billion segment. Our 2025 plan calls for us to capture 1.5% market share of the current sub-market segment. Next slide. Some of the market dynamics here are quite interesting. You may have noted, since we're in what I believe all of financially oriented backgrounds, that Chairman Jay Powell yesterday identified cybersecurity risk in his prepared speech as the largest risk and the one that concerns him most. Here's a deep dive on the part of Swiss Re in a survey of senior management, which showed that about 90% of senior management believes that cybersecurity risk is a direct risk to earnings. And yet, out of the same group, 80% of them said that they have no insight as to their own cybersecurity risk. So clearly, this is a gap issue to be solved. Next slide. We're one of the top 500 cybersecurity solution vendors worldwide, according to Momentum Partners in their annual Cyberscape survey. Next slide. And we've been covered by Gartner as the leading solution in digital risk management and data-driven risk management. Next slide. We have outstanding testimonials, including from Mark Roth, Chief Engineer of the U.S. Air Force, Marisource Bergen in the lower left corner, major cloud providers, as well as NIST themselves. Next slide.
1 minute warning.
The solution provides total digital risk that the enterprise throws off, as well as how much of that risk has been mitigated through current solutions and how much has been transferred through cyber insurance programs. Next slide. We use visibility data from 360-degree sources, including proprietary sources, some published sources, et cetera. We do scans. None of our effort requires us to be on the ground. All of this is done through data. Next slide. This is just kind of the process flow for implementation. Next slide. This was a recent implementation that we had with a $170 billion company globally, operating in 120 countries, 48,000 employees. They had one of the big four in to develop a model of their PII breach risk exposure, which yielded an estimate of 25 million. Like most work that's being done currently in these outdated models in the cybersecurity risk management space, this was highly dependent on professional opinion and expert judgment. We came in and then based on data, we're able to show them that their actual risk exposure was around 192 million. That's an 87% delta, and this is very typical of the kind of results that we experience. Next slide. So another case study, total enterprise cybersecurity risk was 368 million. This was a financial institution. Their cybersecurity budget, 30 million. Basically, the cost of the solution in their case was 230,000 a year. And again, it's a SaaS subscription solution. Retargeting their gains in risk reduction produced an additional 8% cost recovery. And that resulted in 21.5 million a year, resulting in a 93 times ROI. Next slide. We've got substantial traction with a wide variety of customers, including alliance partnership with Tech Data, ServiceNow, and others. Next slide.
And that's time.
Okay, next slide. Just competitive advantage. Next slide. Team. Next slide. And that's it. Thank you.
Awesome.
And questions?
Thank you, David. Open up the floor for questions.
David, what was your planned use of proceeds on that 4 million raise?
It's primarily marketing and biz dev. And to date, we have really invested since our founding in 2016, primarily in the product. As you might imagine, it's a highly technical product. I should mention our original CTO was the former CTO of Tesla Motors, Gene Glaudel. And so we've made great strides on the product front, but now need to raise additional capital to properly address the market.
What sort of revenue do you have to date?
We've just crossed in 2021, 500,000 a year ARR.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Reese.
Sure. Hi, this is Reese Schroeder from Allstate Strategic Ventures. David, just a question for you, and I asked this of various, enterprise cybersecurity software companies that I come across, but the attack vector has really changed since COVID, and everybody's working from home and whatnot. Is your solution, able to address, all the way down to like the router in my house as far as the enterprise risk?
It is. We operate on the basis, Reese, and by the way, greetings from Chicago. We operate on the basis of controls and validation of controls. We can do that at a variety of levels, including a global agreement that we have with Crow, the accounting firm, to establish controls at a very detailed level. We use the NIST 800-53 framework, or alternatively, quite a bit in SMB space, we use NIST CSF, and we also can use ISO 27001. As you may be familiar with those frameworks, they cover everything from network, server, storage, cloud, edge computing, Internet of Things, shadow IT, et cetera. We include that entire landscape, and most conventional risk management systems include primarily the glass house or corporate data center, if you will.